All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. We are going to be diving right into the astrology for November. I did a really deep dive, as always, for the astrology this month. So I'm super excited to share everything. And yeah, I hope you're all doing well out there. I wish I could hear you guys telling me how it's been, but um as always, feel free to comment down below if there's anything you ever want to share. And I will say that I feel as though we are in a really, really sacred moment in time. And I just find fall to be so beautiful. And we're really in the heart of fall at this point. And seeing these leaves really turning color and even falling. And yeah, it's just really, I think, I find every fall to be very sacred, but there's something really special to me about this one in particular, being in a number 9 year and having Pluto in Aquarius, and just like this real unveiling of illusion and stepping really deeply into authenticity. And that requires a lot of courage, that requires a lot of release and grief. And we're at the tail end of this year. So I imagine that a lot of us are feeling a lot, right? So I'm sending your heart a big hug. And yeah, if you are in that group, and you could be also experiencing a lot of grief and joy at the same time. So really holding the depths of it all, which is what I think of when I say the words exist in love. That's what I think of, is really being able to hold the depths of both the joy and the grief. So honoring everyone in that. And what else do I want to say? Just to preface with, yeah, we're pretty far into, well, we're decently into Scorpio season at this point, and just there is definitely a need with I think any water sign, this need for surrender, and especially Scorpio, this need for surrender into letting go and to allowing transformation to unfold and trusting in the divine. So those are kind of like the big points that I want to touch upon before we get into the astrology for the month. But without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm recording this on the 3rd of November, and tomorrow, the 4th, we have Mars entering Sagittarius. So another thing I want to say is that we have a few things going from Scorpio to Sagittarius. So really going from these depths into kind of this like more open and explorative energy, while we're still dealing with a lot of retrogrades. So it's an interesting time to be alive, to say the least. So we just had Mars in Scorpio, and Mars in Scorpio is in domicile at that, and in Mars, right? Scorpio's domicile in Mars. And wait, is that right? I feel like I have I always say it wrong. Mars is in domicile in Scorpio, is what I meant. I think, yeah. Don't mind me, I'm just a Pisces. I have a Pisces Mercury. There's a lot going on here. But, yeah, Pisces is not in domicile in Mercury, is what I will say there. Anywho, so Mars in Scorpio is this energy of, it is a very powerful placement to have. And Mars is this energy of sex and aggression. I kind of see it as our internal power, where we wield our power and motivation our masculine energy in a way in the world, our ability to take action, etc. And to have that planet in Scorpio is this energy of precision, very strategic. But Scorpio is the depths, right? It is, in my mind, never ending. It is the subconscious ocean of really powerful energy, but also energy that, I won't go there yet, but it is the depths. And to have Mars, right? This planet of action, this planet of sex and aggression in the depths like that. It's like there's this never ending fuel to that planet, and or for that planet rather. And there's also a level of emotional intensity that comes with Mars and Scorpio. So collectively speaking, for us here, to have Mars and Scorpio, there could have been this real drive to hone in on whatever it is that we are focused on, right? So if you're creating a business or you're really trying to lock into your passion or creativity in some aspect of your life, some type of project, there could have been this real supportive energy in getting your goals completed and really creating something powerful. Now, also with the influence of Scorpio, I feel that there has been, because we have the Sun in Scorpio, we had Mars in Scorpio, we had, I think that's it for now. Yeah, but there's more Scorpio to come. Don't worry. But it is this energy of, too, like, kind of the undercurrent, right? It is happening underneath the surface within us, right? But it's also like this energy that's kind of, how do I explain this the way I want to portray it? It's like doing a lot of shadow work and doing a lot of unconscious work, like behind the scenes. It's like it's happening underneath the surface of our conscious mind. Without us kind of realizing it, we could have been really facing a lot of shadows, especially in terms of things that we want to bring into the world with that Mars and Scorpio energy. So it's like in the background of you creating things and making these projects real, there could have been this undercurrent of needing to face a lot of shadows throughout that, without it really being at the very forefront of your mind, but kind of this intensity in the background. So now that we have Mars entering Sagittarius, that kind of, I think, will bring, in my opinion, this sense of relief a little bit in terms of the intensity going on behind the scenes or underneath the surface, right? I think it will allow us to kind of bring this more explorative energy to the way we're showing up in the world, our projects, whatever we're working on, whatever we're wanting to really bring into the physical realm. And again, just our internal power, like how we're showing up. I feel like it is going to create a little bit of a lighter energy here, in one sense. But the other sense, there's this real alignment with truth and integrity and keeping it real, right? So in the same breath of excitement starting to bubble up and feeling a bit more open and expansive, there's also this energy of, if faced with conflict, this real authenticity coming through and really not taking any shit from people, and yeah, really aligning with truth and authenticity and moving us closer to abundance. But again, I think I already said this, maybe I didn't, but just really keeping in mind too that we are still very much in a retrograde season. So there's a lot that we're still unweaving, untangling, and releasing as we're at the very tail end of a 9-year, which has just been so transformative and powerful. But yeah, it's like the final steps to really help us to get really clear within our own internal space to then fully step out into the world again. And I think that Mars in Sagittarius is supportive to continuing to move forward and to continue this like release of what's not serving us, while cultivating a life that will serve us and align with us, right? So that's where I'll leave it with Mars in entering Sagittarius tomorrow. Okay, so now that we've covered Mars in Sagittarius, I want to talk about the full moon that we'll be having in Taurus on November 5th. So this full moon, well, first I'll say that specifically is like this really like visceral, I don't like, that's not really the word I want to use, but it's just this very like embodied experience of Venusian energy, and to have it in the moon, that is like our moods and emotions. I think it's a really good opportunity to really ground into how we feel, to our own vessels and our own experience here, and really to align fully with this new timeline that we're on, right? So I feel like we've done a lot of the releasing back in that eclipse energy that we had in September. And I think now it is this time to really like take in all of the integration from those experiences and really allow ourselves to ground into this death and transformation. We need to be really rooted into that. And I think that this Taurus full moon will be this opportunity to really sink into ourselves in this new timeline, like I said. So I do a lot of intuitive work when I'm looking into all these transits, and I like pull some cards with like my research basically. And what came through for the full moon in Taurus that is worth mentioning is that the card of Venus actually did come out, which was just very like a very powerful confirmation for me. And again, the rulership, right? So I get this sense that there's going to be this transformation around, there's going to be this integration, right? And then through that integration of what we are grieving, what we have released, to really create space for this new timeline to flourish and keep developing, is this energy of like mending our relationship to our self-worth, and therefore how we connect to our abundance. And the more that we can really like ground into our authenticity and our truth, and again, integrate all of the things from this year. Not to say that this full moon is like your one and only chance to integrate all this. But I think it's an opportunity to really slow down and kind of review the year and to really process everything that has taken place. And I think, again, through that like transformation of our connection to our own self-worth and our own value, that is going to shift our how we are connecting with others and collaborating with others and bringing in the right alignments with the right people for partnerships, whether it's at work, with friendships, or with projects, or romantic relationships. There's something really transforming in how we view ourselves and then how we connect with others, if that makes sense, and how we connect to our ability to really create wealth and stability in our lives. So some really beautiful energy there. Yeah. Okay, so now I want to talk about Venus entering Scorpio. We have Venus entering Scorpio on November 6th. And I want to preface that we are in this 9-year. We are in this the end of a 9-year. So I get the sense that Venus in Scorpio is going to be very powerful for us during this month. And I think into December. Don't quote me on that, though. We'll get there. But to say Venus doesn't really love to be in Scorpio. There, I think, is an intensity to Scorpio that can be a little bit much for Venus. And not to say that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it serves a purpose. And I think this time around, having collectively Venus in Scorpio, I think it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. I think there's going to be this level of really understanding our depths on a deeper level and like what we really need to release to there's shadows that really need to be released for us to step into this new season, this new timeline in a deeper way. And I think Venus in Scorpio is going to be our opportunity to really sit in that depth and intensity, and at times uncomfortable intensity, so that we can really understand the depths of our emotions, for one, and to really face what needs to be released. And sometimes we need some tension there, right? To be able to face and to see what needs to be released. So I think something that could really help us with this Venus and Scorpio is to kind of turn toward whatever is coming up in our unconscious minds and being gentle with ourselves, and allowing ourselves to kind of feel the intensity. And if we can step into the observer rather than being really caught up in our specific story, our specific experience, and understand this is happening on a collective level for a reason, I think that can be very helpful for us to navigate Venus and Scorpio. And in my opinion, I think there is going to be this extra level of intensity with it because we are in this 9-year. We're at the tail end of it, and there's just this deep shedding occurring. And I think anything being in Scorpio in this year is really helping us to really release anything that is keeping us from our full authentic expression and expansion. So keeping that in mind, throughout this month, I think can be very important. What next? So next we'll have Mercury retrograde beginning on the 9th in Sagittarius. So there's a lot happening here. Not to mention all the aspects that we have this month as well, but we're not going to get too far into that. We're just going to keep it on the big stuff right now. But okay, so basically any Mercury retrograde, I think, is this opportunity to kind of slow down and to kind of rethink things, to reevaluate certain things. And I think, again, with this Venus in Scorpio, it's going to be this opportunity to really like untangle some things in our subconscious that really need to be released. So I don't really think it is a time to launch anything new, like a relationship or a project or anything like that. I think it's a time for conversation. Well, conversation internally and really taking time to understand yourself on a deeper level. I don't think it's really an amazing time to try to communicate with others because I feel like we're going to feel pretty unclear within ourselves. But I don't want to say it's like not a possibility at all. I think there could be some conversations that come up that could be productive, but you need to really understand where you're at before you go trying to communicate with others. It might be good to just wait a little while until we get through this. To have any like big conversations, but also tuning into yourself, like what feels aligned for you. Like, do you feel, if someone comes back from the past, like listen to your intuition. Do you feel like it's going to be productive, or do you still feel very unclear in yourself and you need some more time to process and integrate? So keeping all that in mind. But yeah, really rediscovering our own truths, retracing the stories that have shaped our truths, and this deep shedding into authentic, aligned, undeniable truth. Yeah, and I think we'll save that. Well, I was just going to say that I feel like once we get beyond this Mercury retrograde into that, and beyond the shadow period, right? When I think Mercury will go direct. It will go direct in Scorpio, and then it will go back into Sagittarius. I think then we'll be starting to feel a lot more clear when it comes to our communication and to how we're feeling. Yeah. But we're still going to be in some retrogrades at that point too. But I do think it will start to bring more clarity. That's around, December 11th. Mercury will be back in Sagittarius out of the shadow phase. So really stepping into our internal undeniable truth at that point. So some things to keep in mind during this retrograde, Mercury retrograde, is our perception on how we're perceiving the situations in our lives. I think there's going to be some tension, like I said, with that Venus and Scorpio in combination with this Mercury retrograde. I think there's going to be tension to really illuminate and to bring us clearer perspective on the situations in our lives. So on November 11th, we have Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, which Jupiter does like to be in Cancer. It's exalted in Cancer. So it's interesting that it's in exaltation, but it's also in retrograde. So that will be interesting. But I get this sense that it's this opportunity to rebuild our abundance from within. And some of the cards, I like to use my astrology deck. It's so far away, so I'm not going to grab it. But I like to use my astrology deck in combination with looking at what's going on for the month. So what came out was really, well, the debilitated card came out, and then act, shine, and think. So I feel like we're really rethinking how we are showing up in the world, how we are expressing ourselves in the world, and how that relates to our abundance and like what we want to create in the world. So I think there's going to be this opportunity to really redefine our internal home, our internal sense of stability and abundance, leading us to like this deeper sense of internal nourishment that I think will help us really redefine what it is that, how we want to show up in the world and how we want to express ourselves authentically, and how is that going to create like stability in our lives or abundance in our lives. So on November 18th, we have Mercury retrograde entering Scorpio. So we're going from Sagittarius to Scorpio, where before with like Mars, we went from Scorpio to Sagittarius. So lots going on in those two signs, especially like we have the sun in Scorpio and going into Sag eventually. So beginning in Sagittarius, I feel like this is like really an opportunity again to rethink, rediscover our own truths. And I feel like this energy moving into Scorpio is inviting us to really transform and transmute our truth into this authentic essence. This shift internally that really, like, I think I see it as like this burning away of all of these mindsets that are holding us back from our truth. And I think when Mercury enters the retrograde in Sagittarius, it's like a lot of like realizations and really like rethinking, right, from our upbringing from this year, like really being faced with, okay, where are these stories coming from? Like, why do I believe this? Like, kind of our mind opening from within. And then moving into Scorpio, it's like, okay, now we're going to burn away everything that is not serving us to get us to what does serve us, to our true, authentic alignment. And what came out for that, for Mercury retrograde entering Scorpio, was Uranus and Mars. So this energy of change and action. But I immediately just saw this shift of like burning away, like Mars energy burning away what is not serving us. And that was all intuitive. So keep that in mind. Like, those cards just came out, and what intuitively came through was like this shift, this uncomfortable change through the burning away of belief systems, mindsets that are no longer serving us. So I hope that is clear. Yeah, really powerful. And again, when Mercury finally enters Sagittarius again, direct on December 11th, I feel like we're going to be like oh my God, like just like a lot more clear. And I think there's going to be this sense of like a little bit more peace internally. So interesting. And that is also December 10th is, so let's talk about some of the retrogrades that we already are in. We have Neptune retrograde, I believe at 29 degrees in Pisces right now, happening right now, from October 22nd to December 10th. So we're like, that is a very karmic degree, it's called an anaretic degree. And this is this moment of really wrapping up some major cycles. And cycles that could have caused a lot of illusion and just this really deep clearing. I call it right now we're in this like deep internal sacred space that's just allowing like there's just this deep need for surrender, for us to really allow this transformation to take place and to really release anything that's not serving us. And I think everything that's happening this month is just really pushing us to get really clear internally so that we can show up authentically on the outside here. But on December 10th, Neptune goes direct in Pisces at 29 degrees. So that's super powerful. And then slowly from December 10th to January 26th, we'll have Neptune moving back into Aries, going back over that 0 degree. So, we kind of already went through this deep experience of back in September of Neptune going retrograde back over that 0 degree, going back into Pisces to that 29th degree. So it's like whatever was really needing to face during that eclipse season, right? Whatever was blocking us from stepping into our most aligned timeline. And now that it is at the 29th degree, it's like we're kind of in this like sacred void, it feels like to me, of like, not a void, but like just this moment of clearing old timelines while also like the new timeline is kind of coming in and you can kind of see it and feel it, but it's not quite there yet. But it's like, yeah, just like really deeply removing all of these blocks so that we can really step into it come December 10th into January. It will be like this, I'm hoping, I feel like it will be kind of like an easeful moving into the new timeline, because by January 26th, we'll still have some other planets that need to go direct still. So it won't be like all at once, this huge like, okay, but I do feel like we will start to feel this like sense of like, okay, we're like moving along now here. So, which is good. I hope all that made sense. If you want to look back at like October or July, I really explained it in depth, like in its entirety, kind of the process that Saturn and Neptune have been going through in relation to Chiron. So I highly recommend going back and looking at that if you would like to. But another thing I will note in this video, if you're new here or haven't seen those videos, is that Chiron is also in retrograde in Aries, and it never goes back into Pisces. So I feel like we really have our wounds illuminated right now, like happening right now. And this 29th degree of Pisces is also like the last sign of the zodiac, right? So it's also a very karmic sign in itself. And to have it at a very karmic degree on top of it collectively, like we are all releasing like so much energy that has been holding us back. And we also have Virgo on the opposite spectrum, well, the opposite side of the zodiac wheel, in the South Node. So there's just a lot of energy being really purged so that we can really step into it. Sorry if I'm like repeating myself a lot, but it's just so powerful to have this illumination of like what is blocking us from our internal power with that Chiron energy in Aries, right? And then to have this super like intense anaretic degree in Pisces, 29th degree in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces is like just, this is such a deep release that I can't even like put it into words. And it does feel very sacred. And again, this deep need for surrender. And it's just so exciting to think about like when Neptune finally gets back to that, the direct energy in Aries on January 26th, just this like movement forward. So it's exciting. Yeah, is there anything I want to say before I move on about Mercury retrograde in Scorpio? Yeah, not really. Just again, a lot of introspection, a lot of review and release and burning away of what's not serving us. Again, in alignment with all these other things going on so that we can really move toward our future. And we also have the North Node in Pisces. So it's very interesting that at one end we have that Neptune energy happening in Pisces, but then we also have the North Node in Pisces. So it's like we're needing to release all this stuff karmatically, like these illusions, these false beliefs about ourselves, so that we can really move towards our North Node and our purpose and mission in this lifetime. Yeah. And we'll kind of circle back to that when we talk about Saturn a little bit, but not too much. So on November 20th, that is the next thing I want to talk about, we'll have the new moon in Scorpio. So I really picked up heavily when meditating on this was Persephone's energy and this energy of just like very fertile ground. And I think it's really this opportunity to plant the seeds in the ground for winter, which like a seed really does do a lot of the work when it's underneath the soil. And I just get this sense, like I'm even getting this imagery from one of my classes too, of one of my teachers talking about how Persephone goes into the underworld and she's able to grow flowers in the underworld. And I get this sense as we're moving into these darker months of, I feel like we're really doing a lot of blooming from an internal standpoint. And I think this new moon specifically is an opportunity to really, I think it's going to not really feel like a new moon in some ways, but I think it will in a lot of ways. But I think it's important to recognize that, again, we're in this really deep kind of retrograde period, the darker months, where I think we're going to feel the growth, but it's going to be like underneath the surface, like really deep internally, like within our roots, not really fully like on the outside necessarily yet. But I don't want to say that fully, because I do think that we're already kind of stepping into this new timeline and you will start to see growth, but it's not going to be this like full on like seeing all of the blossoms yet. I think that's going to come more towards springtime, but really like planting, nourishing the seeds underneath the earth, underneath the soil. Yeah. So an opportunity to really listen to our depths, release, regenerate, cultivate inside the heart of the underworld, friending our shadows. I feel like I'm just getting this image of someone like meditating and this sense of a lot of like internal empowerment growing underneath the surface, and starting to be like shown on the outside in their physical lives. Yeah, very interesting. But yeah, really exploring our depths to transform our shadows and even befriend our shadows. And really, like, I'm also getting the image of like someone really just sitting in both their light and dark, and it all becoming very deeply integrated, and this internal empowerment really growing through this transmutation of one's shadows and woundings. So yeah, it's just like, again, in combination with everything going on, this like, I'm just getting such beautiful images in my mind of like that power really growing from deep within. Anything else that I want to say here? Yeah, this could be a very like ancestral experience too. Like, you could be someone who, if you're kind of on this journey of tending to ancestral lineage, that there could be this energy of really clearing some big cycles and patterns for your family, and that in itself is really going to, yeah, I just keep seeing like a woman sitting on the ground, like talking with her angels, her guides, her ancestors, and this really like transforming them on a visceral level. And this energy of releasing a lot of like burdens on the lineage. So honoring you if you do that work. That is very important, sacred work to be done. We all should really be doing that for our bloodlines and our ancestors, especially when connecting to work like this. So honoring everyone on that journey, and anyone who's considering that journey or wanting to open up to that more. Yeah, I do know some people who like steward that type of work. If anyone's ever interested in that, you can send me a message or let me know in the comments down below. But also on the 20th, we'll have Uranus sextile Neptune, which I think is interesting. And maybe that's part of kind of the imagery I was just getting through of, yeah, that could be part of it, this combination. Because Uranus is this energy of, well, especially in Gemini, a lot of like unexpected changes, innovation. It's more like a collective planet, right? And affects us collectively. Same with Neptune. Well, that's a little different. But anywho, having Neptune in Pisces in retrograde and Uranus in Gemini, that's super interesting. I feel like it's going to be this energy of, again, an internal experience, but creative breakthroughs, collective unconscious breakthroughs, kind of the spiritual meets the practical innovation here. And yeah, I feel like it's going to be this like moment of, maybe for a lot of us in this collective, of really, again, the everything I just told you. I think this is just a combination of these two transits happening, of like, the cards that came out here was the South Node, the past, Virgo. The Virgo card literally came out with the South Node and Ascendant entrance. So I think something about our past, our lineage, our patterns, something becoming really clear to us about that. And that's going to be like this opening into really connecting to all of our parts in a deeper way and like integrating our dark and light. On November 21st, we have the sun entering Sagittarius. And what do I want to say about this? I think this is going to be this, like, we still have a lot kind of going on in Scorpio, I feel, right? Yeah, we'll still have like Mercury in Scorpio. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, Venus will still be in Scorpio for a while. So I think there's going to be, and we still have like Mercury retrograde happening. So there's going to be some tension here. There could be tension in community I was picking up on. And this need to bring balance into that. Like an invitation to really bring more balance into community through facing the shadow aspects and really speaking your authentic truth, cutting through illusions, bringing harmony to tension. I was picking up on like snake energy, truth being revealed. So all of that could be relevant come when the sun enters Sagittarius. And that was more of an intuitive hit. So just keeping that in mind. But Sagittarius is also this expansive energy after, again, as we've talked about, after a time of being in Scorpio, the time of like the depths. And I do want to say, throughout everything we just talked about, the sun will be in Scorpio. So that in itself, sorry y'all, I got a phone call. So yeah, just to kind of recap what I was saying was that having Scorpio, or having the sun in Scorpio throughout everything we have just been talking about, is this, like, that is going to be like kind of this overarching energy of everything that we're moving through this month, everything we just talked about. So that's important to keep in mind, is like we are going to be really in the depths of kind of everything going on in the undercurrent and below our conscious mind, in our unconscious mind, and kind of in the background, like working through a lot of shadow aspects to really help us transform into this new energy. So I feel like the sun moving into Sagittarius will bring some like expansion, a little bit more excitement, and maybe even some motivation, just a little bit of a lighter energy, but as we're still kind of moving through a lot and we still have some things in Scorpio. So I feel like it might be kind of a hard thing to hold while we're like, ooh, like expansion, I want to, like, you know, but then also like having things in retrograde and like still moving through a lot of shadows and like getting to that final squeeze of this 9-year. So it's important just to keep that in mind. On November 27th is when Saturn goes direct. So I think this will be kind of a relieving experience in ways. And it's like Saturn is in retrograde, right? The teacher, you know, Saturn doesn't mess around. They're very disciplined. It's a very disciplined planet. They want to make sure we're doing our homework. And it's like Saturn comes back around. It's like, have you done the work? Have you really allowed yourself to understand the depths going on here? And did you excavate what needed to be dealt with here? Yeah, and I think Saturn does tend to leave these little gifties if we have kind of done the work. So we could feel this collective calmness a little bit, this like, especially if you have done the work, like kind of this sense of reward, even if it's just like an internal sense of like a newfound sense of peace or something along those lines. But yeah, moving forward with a little bit more clarity and direction. and kind of being able to bring this like disciplined action to spiritual, emotional, creative pursuits, because Saturn is still in Pisces, and I believe it is going direct in Pisces. So that should be supportive to us, and that'll be helpful for the Pisces out there too, just because we still have Neptune retrograde in Pisces at that 29th degree. So yeah, I think that will be like a supportive aspect to be had. So on November 29th, we will have Mercury going direct in Scorpio. So I think that will feel good too. But I feel like it will be like, we're still in the shadow period. There's still going to be this energy of like mystery and kind of surfing through these depths a little bit, and this level of intensity a bit until December 10th and 11th, when Neptune goes direct, and also when we have Mercury re-entering Sagittarius in also direct energy. So yeah, I like that. I think we're still gonna be in this like foggy period while we have that like Neptune retrograde happening and the Mercury retrograde and like all the Scorpio energy. Like, we're in, again, I want to not be annoying, but I keep emphasizing it because it's hard to like fully, unless like with the Neptune in Pisces, it's hard to fully encapsulate unless I do like the full explanation of it, which I kind of tried to do, but I wasn't planning on doing that, so I feel like it came out a little choppy earlier in the video. But again, feel free to ever, if you want a clear picture of that, I really did a good job of explaining that in the July astrology video, which I'll link it below if anyone's interested in that. But yeah, I just think we're in this like sacred pause moment, like where, again, there's this deep need for surrender. And I think come December 10th, 11th, we'll start to feel more clarity and like kind of this slow build up towards more and more clarity and movement forward, and kind of really stepping into this new timeline in a bigger way. So that's all I'll say about that. On the 30th, we have Venus entering Sagittarius. So I think that will be nice. I think it will kind of give us this feeling of some internal liberation. Sagittarius is very free, liberated, very independent. And so to have it in Venus, I think could bring this like little bit of detachment from maybe the focus on relationships, like one-on-one connections specifically. Or it could just bring like an independent feeling into relationships, which is good. I think that can bring a lot of clarity and this like kind of stepping out of like codependency, if you know what I mean by that. Like, yeah, I think, you know, something specifically about relationships coming through right now is like, I think if any of you are struggling with relationships or partnerships, that after this whole month of Scorpio energy, deep transformation, again, during a 9-year, like, that is so profound. Like, I just see this Scorpio season as this moment of really, like, integrating and processing everything that we went through, everything that we let go of this year, everything that is not serving us. I mean, I am 99% sure that almost all of you probably have gone through something really intense this year where you had to let go of a lot, or like your life could have done a really, like, I want to say like a 365. Is that even a thing? A 360. A 365. Oh my god, that's funny. I was gonna say 180, but I'm like, that's not far enough. Like, I feel like a lot of us have really let go of a whole old timeline and stepped into a completely new one that we've never experienced before. So, something specific coming through right now in this present moment with this Venus entering Sagittarius is like, especially as we're stepping out of the Scorpio season in a 9-year where all this transformation is taking place, I get this sense that could, well, one more thing that I need to say, that I need to circle back to, I guess, is, so we just did all this excavating, right? We did all of this, like, deep, like, looking into our subconscious. What do we need to let go of? Like, how can we move through this to really step into this new timeline, to really align with what's meant for us, and to be open to receiving it, and to allow ourselves to receive it. A lot of us, I think, have gone through a lot of painful situations and difficulties that have stopped us from really being able to fully trust or fully receive what is meant for us. So I think that's going to be a lot about what this month is about, and just this Scorpio season is about. And specifically when we've kind of already moved through all of this, once we get to Venus entering Sagittarius, I just get the sense that we'll be able to, like, see, even if we're not yet, like, communicating with others or trying to mend certain situations or whatever have you, I feel like we'll be able to see ourselves more clearly from other people. Like, stepping away from that codependency and being able to understand, okay, like, this is why this didn't work out in the past, and now I'm seeing this from, like, a clear perspective where we can be independent together, like that kind of thing. Even in friendships, romantic relationships, or even like with your relationship to your work, how you separate your time and energy too. And just a lot of clarity coming through this Venus in Sagittarius. So yeah, what I have here is internal liberation, authentic expression after a deep dive, emerging from deep emotional work, being catapulted towards joy, expansion, and freedom. I think all of that is true, but I still think we'll be moving kind of slowly towards that throughout December into the new year. Some of the cards that came through was basically like nudging us towards our North Node, future focus, moving us towards our future that is aligned with us, after a time of review and integration, and again, burning away with what's not serving us, and this motion forward. So that feels good to me. And that is everything. Oh my god, I didn't even realize that we were talking about the last day of the year, November 30th. Wow. What a beautiful note to end on. So I hope that was able to, like, be understood by y'all. I don't know if you guys, like, if a lot of you really know astrology well, but I do have a Mercury in Pisces, so there's sometimes this, like, need to really, like, figure it out in the moment, and sometimes I go in a little bit of circles if I feel I didn't get my point across fully. So I hope you're able to really take in everything I shared with y'all. I would love to hear, maybe at the end of the month or now, like, just how this landed for you, or how your month ends up going in general, and just how this resonated. If you feel like you're like, certain things I said were like, oh my god, like, this, like, really feels right to me. I don't know, I'm just curious. I want to know. I'm gonna keep repeating myself until the end of time. So I think we should pull some cards to end the reading. Okay, let's pull some cards for the month of November. Collectively speaking. And make sure to keep a lookout for all of your zodiac sign readings. I'm going to do a couple today and try to get them all out for the beginning of November by the end of the week. And then we'll do mid-months, and maybe I'll even throw in some twin flame check-ins or ancestor readings. Oh my god, this is amazing. Wow. Wow, so in alignment with everything we just talked about. It almost like is bringing me to tears. So we have truth and integrity on the bottom here. And this is the overarching energy. So I feel like that's what this month is really getting us to, this deep transformation. And then we have, of course, the snake coming out with transformation. I really feel this emphasis that like Scorpio season in a 9-year is so potent, and everything that we went through this year is really being like integrated, processed, and released for like just like this new like all the old skin shutting off. And I just get this image of like it's like underneath all. I wish I had like a movie that like really exemplified this coming to my mind right now, but like all of this old energy just falling away, and underneath it is like, oh my god, it's like Moana. Wait, like in Moana, wait, I think it's Moana, where like the island woman is like this like volcanic like stone rock, and it's like all this trauma is like on her, and then it's like she remembers who she is and she integrates that, and her heart is returned to her, and she becomes this blossoming island of who she truly is. And that's kind of this energy I get with this Scorpio season, which is just so unbelievably profound and powerful. Like we are very lucky to be able to be here and to be doing that work, and to really be releasing so many cycles that like the people before us didn't have the opportunity to, or didn't have the space to. And it's just such a gift, even through the pain, through the grief, through the letting go of things, to be able to experience this version of ourselves. Truly. So we have the Soul Awakening card coming through here. It's just really beautiful. And then Healer and Dance. So there might be some need again for, as you're integrating all this stuff, keep in mind your body is still a body, and all of this kind of emotional and intellectual stuff that we're releasing and moving through needs to be processed and moved. So there might be this need for movement and exercise or dance or something along those lines. I didn't mean to like, okay, put those away, but it is what it is. So let's pull some cards for the month of November. So I'm just going to do a 3-card reading. That was too many. Let's see what wants to come through here. A lot wants to come through. We'll just do our regular reading, past, present, future, for the month of November for the collective, because I feel like a lot wants to come through here. I feel like that pretty much sums it up, but we'll keep pulling. Wow, this is such a powerful reading. So we have the Ten of Swords, the High Priest, and the Strength card. So really releasing a lot, right? A big ending here, becoming this High Priest. So I feel like that is our masculine energy really transforming here and having the strength to really step into that in a bigger way so that we can eventually take action in the world here. And then in the heart of this reading, the present, we have the Eight of Cups, the Seven of Pentacles, and the High Priestess. So High Priest and High Priestess coming out in this reading. Walking away from what's not serving us, right? Reviewing and reflecting on what is within us. And then also this transformation, really tapping into our intuition, into that ability to kind of understand the unconscious mind in a deeper way and really turn that energy into wisdom, both on the masculine side and the feminine side here. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles, the Five of Swords, and the King of Swords. So I get this sense of really grounding into ourselves and releasing mindsets, really cutting away from mindsets and also people who keep us in this energy of lack. And then we have the Ace of Swords, so truth. This, again, truth and integrity really coming through here. Judgment, this awakening coming through, which is exactly what came up in the other cards, right? And really this passion and new opportunities coming through, which I imagine will be in this Sagittarius energy, as Wands is related to the fire signs. So I also do want to pull some of my Phoenix cards because we are in Scorpio season, and I just want to pull one. Just one archetypal card. Too many. I just want one. To give us the energy of November. Whoa. The Delegate. So let's read that. We do have the dragon on the bottom. And I feel like, ooh, and the Phoenix card. So I think that's what's really happening underneath the surface, is that this like really rising from the ashes and becoming this powerful integrated version of yourself. But on the surface, a lot of kind of day-to-day moving through all of these energies. So let's see what the Delegate has to offer us. In our lives, we often carry an invisible burden in the form of obvious or hidden expectations that our family places on us. We all may have taken on a job, a responsibility, a reparation, the realization of a dream, an obligation, or a debt from our parents or ancestors without it being our conscious choice. Then we become delegates, and our lives become a conscious or unconscious attempt to fulfill the desires and needs of others. Perhaps you were sent out into the world to fulfill a parent's hope or to win a battle your family couldn't win. The mission was for you to live the life that someone could not or dared not live. This inhabitant of your inner world is asking you to make a conscious decision now as to whether you want to accept or continue a particular assignment from your family or society. Ask yourself whether this is in harmony with your soul plan. So something I want to know is when talking about like the ancestor work and like being able to have this opportunity to feel things and move through things, at no point does that mean like living the story of someone else's idea for you, but really stepping into your authentic expression beyond the expectations of anyone else around you. Um, I think that in itself frees up so much energy within our our family lines, really. Um, is to do the unexpected, right? Anyway, ultimately we carry the burden of a life that is not our own. We do this to prove our love or because we are afraid that we will be excluded if we don't fulfill the assignment. This card invites you to question whether you have taken a certain path out of a misunderstood loyalty to your family wounds and shadows. If this is the case, then it's time to remember your needs, desires, and dreams and stay true to them. You have the right not to live up to your family's expectations to be yourself. This is a path that requires courage, but also allows you to live a fulfilled life that aligns with your values and dreams. You have the courage and strength to walk the path of self-liberation and take control of your own life. Trust in yourself and the power that lies within you. You have the right to choose your own destiny. So I feel like that is so in alignment with everything that we have talked about, really just like releasing these self-limiting beliefs, these expectations of society or our families, that anything that really doesn't align with our most authentic truth and expression. So yeah, and that's very Scorpionic, really tapping into kind of the hidden parts of our choices and our decisions in life, and realigning with our heart's true desires here. So a really powerful month ahead. Thanks so much for tuning in, and again, keep an eye out for your